doctor was long ago when I was in school. I remember when I was in school, maybe around the 7th standard or so, I saw a movie named Anuradha.
Okay.
The protagonist was Balraj Sahni, and he was a village doctor. And the entire story revolved around how he left the city and came to the village, and he served the people, and the way he dedicated his life for the people of the village, and he touched their lives in so many ways. It's not just treating a patient. You develop a bond with that person, and it's the entire family, the entire society that bonds with you. It is that relationship which is so pure and it is so noble that it itself means the world to you. So when I saw that movie, I immediately connected with it, and I decided this is what I want to do in life. In fact, there are so many other things in the movie. I didn't look at it at all. All I saw was Balraj Sahni and what he was doing. So that was the first instance that I already, sort of made up my mind right in school. Now, to the extent that when we came to the 9th and 10th standard, we were, given a choice as to what is the third language to be taken. And we also had, I think, French and Marathi. See, I come from a Kannada background. I'm a South Indian. Okay. And I was in Rajasthan, so it was a very, very strong Gujarati influence culture around me. So I used to understand Gujarati, speak a bit, but I really didn't speak Marathi so fluently at that point of time.
Right.
But my thought process had already begun, and I had decided that if at all I want to be a doctor, and I'm staying in Maharashtra, so definitely I need to be very proficient in Marathi. So to the extent that I actually got a tutor, private tutor at home, to see to it that I am proficient in Marathi, and you won't believe it, in 10th I got more marks in Marathi than in English. And it was just that I had started focusing and planning my future probably at that time.
Okay.
The second instance was after my 12th standard. Now we had to take a decision. Okay, so I had good marks in physics also, and my name was somewhere on top of the list in the first few names, even in the UDCT. So my father was so thrilled. He was the director and head of department for Center of Soviet Studies in Bombay University. So he told me, yes, you have a bright future. You take up engineering, go to the US. At that point of time, there was only medicine and engineering.
Correct.
But I was so focused. I said, no, nothing doing. Then my mom, she took me. She had somebody known to her whose son was an orthopedic resident in Sion Hospital. So she said, okay, so we don't know anybody. Our family didn't have a medical background at all. So she took me all the way to Sion Hospital, and I was waiting outside, in the OPD. And then that boy called me in, and then we went and asked him. Then my mom asked him, she's interested in medicine. Do you think that's really, good? Whether it's a good choice? And then he told me, see, look, you have good marks in physics. Don't take up medicine.
Don't take up medicine.
Don't take up medicine. So then as we came out, then my mom looked at me and asked, okay, now, so what is your decision? And I said, no, I will take up only medicine. I said, no matter what. And when I looked at all, then we went through the college also there around, and when I looked at all the residents with their stethoscopes around their necks, I decided this is the only thing that I would want to do in my life. And at the end of it, I took up ophthalmology. In fact, even during my MBBS, we used to have rotations in general medicine, general surgery, ophthalmology, ENT. So when I went to the ophthalmology department, I got so interested. I remember one resident talking to a patient, "Tumche dole khub chan hai na?" And that lady, you should have seen her face lit up. She was an operated patient. She was seeing okay, and she was having some kind of apprehensions. Asa hota hai, tasa hota hai. And then when she told her, "Your eyes are so beautiful," and she was so happy. And when she started seeing, I got so impressed, and I just connected with it. I said, yes, this is something which is touching my heart. So, and I think, you should do what you love and love what you do. So as
How
simple as that.
how easy?
Have always, let me do what is right and what I thought was right. And medicine was not a bad choice after all. It was a very good choice, even though we didn't have a medical background at home. But fortunately, even in the 12th standard, I got engaged quite early in my second MBBS itself.
So you found somebody from the medical school itself.
So no, actually in 11th standard itself.
Oh, you found in
So
11th
it
standard.
was sort of, yeah. So it's been a long association, and that way, I could chart out my future. That's why I said God has been kind, and I know it's not easy. It's not always that it's easy to say love what you do and do what you love. But having said that, I would also say that, in the instance, this is regarding this particular thing that I'm saying. There are so many other things in life where you don't always get to do what you like, or you need to do something which you really don't like. It's not necessary. It's not just your profession. It may be as small as a thing as doing something at home or doing something in your profession which you don't like, but you need to do it. So what I feel is you have to be very rational. You have to think what is good for you at that point of time. Life is always about taking choices. You always come at crossroads and you have to choose one way or the other. So at that point of time, you have to have the wisdom to choose what is right at that point of time and accept. So you know that have you heard those lines about serenity? There's a prayer. Okay, God, please give me the strength to change what I can, to accept what I can't, and to have the wisdom to know the difference between the two. So it is simple. If you can change something, you do it. If you can't, then accept it. Accept it with grace. Training. And when my trainer says, okay, now this is the job for today. Suppose we need to do 15 reps. You need to lift a heavy weight of 15 reps. For the first 7 to 8, it's easy. Okay? It's easier when you begin, and up to 7 to 8, you can easily do it. But the 9th and the 10th, you start really have to, putting in a little more effort. Beyond 10, it becomes so difficult that you want to tell your trainer, please stop, I can't do it. And then he'll shout at you, he said, no 11, no 12. Okay, so it is that point. So beyond a particular point, it's no longer just your physical strength, it's your mind that you're putting in, it's your willpower that you're putting in. So you reach up to 15. When you think that you can't go beyond 10, that means you are underestimating your own potential. And that gives you a positive boost. That is another thing I feel definitely I've always found it.
Failure in life. And all of us will fail at some point in time. Life is not a curve that goes up straight line. What would you tell them? And I'm sure you have also failed. Maybe some surgeries have not gone the way you had planned, or some things that you wanted to do. I also have failed multiple times. Like again, Brian Tracy says that we are all professional failures. Only one thing that we do which is successful. What would you tell them? Because I feel that great vacuum of people not being willing to accept failures or not being trained to accept failures.
Absolutely. I agree with you. In today's world, I mean, it's not just today. It's so difficult for people to keep their chin up, to maintain their composure, and to keep up their strength. That reminds me of a line that I had written in one of my ghazals. बिखर रहा है यहाँ हर कोई कहीं न कहीं, बिखर रहा है यहाँ हर कोई कहीं न कहीं, वही तड़प है वही बेबसी कहीं न कहीं. So basically, like for example today, this is a global disaster. Okay, everyone has been affected. Everyone has been affected. Life is 10% of what happens and 90% of how you react. This reminds me of a story. There was this girl who goes to her father and says that I'm very fed up. I'm not able to do anything right in life. I'm scared of failure. Okay, so the father was a chef, and what he does is he takes her to the kitchen. He puts 3 pots of water on 3 burners. He puts potatoes in the first. He puts a potato in the first pot. Okay, an egg in the second pot, and some ground coffee beans in the third pot. He waits for 20 minutes, and then he asks her, now remove all of them and then tell me what it is. So what happens to the potato? It was hard, and what happened was it became softer. What happened to the egg? It had it was fragile, but now it becomes a hard-boiled egg. And what happened to the coffee beans? It actually gave off a good aroma. So basically, it's all about the same adversity that all of us face, and how you face that failure or how you face that adversity that turns out into what happens to you. Now, for example, like what happened yesterday, or a lot of youngsters today don't have the courage to face failure. Like for example, Thomas Edison, it is said that he failed 1,000 times before he actually invented the bulb.
Right.
It was so easy for him to give up, but he didn't. You just need to hold on. हार से हार न मानेंगे, साहस ही रीत हमारी है, बस हौसला टूटे ना अब, इसी में जीत हमारी है. So courage is not the absence of fear. It is about acting despite those fears. And I think this is what we need to teach our youngsters, as parents, as teachers, as professionals in our own setups, and we need to be with them. It is so important for them also, to be strong. I mean, they think that success, everybody has failed at some point of time or the other, everybody. But we need to use them as stepping stones. So success is basically failure when you hop from one failure to the other.
Correct.
That is what differentiates the anti-fragile from just being robust or resilient. There is something that is beyond robustness and beyond resilience, and that is called as anti-fragility.
It's a new word that I've learned today, so I will use that somewhere.
Anti-fragility is something that you gain from disorder. Like for example, today, if the corona pandemic has affected everyone, all of us are talking about resilience. So resilience is bouncing back to what you were. You may not reach the same level, you may be slightly low. Robustness is the strength that you have, but anti-fragility means that you gain from that. So that is circumstances and what you are doing in life. But you need to have that strength, and you need to think around it. See, it all starts with your mind. It won't happen in a single day. You have to be so passionate, they say to be successful, you want to have it as badly as you can breathe. Only then you will be successful. If you just say, I want to be successful, it's not going to just come to you. You have to walk on a bed of thorns for that. People can't see it. So I tell my people always, it's like a duck which is, on the water. All you can see is it's floating so smoothly. But you see under the water, it's actually flapping its feet. It's like that. Unless you do that, the people outside, like you said, you think I'm successful. It's not. I'm not saying I'm successful. It's like there are lakhs of people who are successful, but it's those people's hard work and effort and pains that they have put that is finally giving them that success, so-called.
We feel left out because of the corona. We had passed out and we were getting a job, and now the company says we can't take you for the next 6 months. We are neither here, neither there. What would you tell me? What is one advice again, no gender biases, as a lady, successful lady, professional? What would you tell? Because a lot of people are facing this situation. They were they completed their MBAs, they were about to intern, but the companies are not hiring. They're sitting at home.
See, the first thing is, this problem of the pandemic is not for one person. It is for everyone. If you have your own qualification, if you have your own strength in your background, it is a question of a few days here and there. You need to have that patience, you need to have that courage, and you need to plan. See, it's about planning everything. Okay, if one company is not taking you, is not hiring you, doesn't mean that's the end of the world. If you are confident in yourself, if you are confident in your skills, see, what is important today is you need to have your skill set. You need to have something which someone will want at some point of time. If you are confident about that, if not one company, a second company is definitely going to hire you. So you need to have your USP. You need to be different. So the first thing is you plan about what you want to do yourself. See that you are going to be of use to someone. Then that someone is definitely going to come looking. That is important. And plan. Plan A, plan B, plan C. All your plans should be. See, it's an excellent question. I've asked myself that question many times. And we go back to the basic question is, why did I fight that election in the first place? Okay. The reason I fought that election was, number one, I wanted to see, I wanted to reach that position. And I knew that there is a fair chance that I might not. But you don't fight to lose. You fight to win. But keeping in mind that if at all you lose, it's not because you have done something less. So if I had not worked hard for it, there would be a greater chance that I would lose. But so that I would not feel bad about it, what I did was, I worked my heart out in all possible ways. So for me, it's not the manzil, it is that journey that is important. Safar zyada haseen hai manzil se bhi. So when I actually went through all those months of hardship, okay, I actually met so many people. I learned so much, not only ophthalmology, so many non-ophthalmic things. And I learned so many lessons in life that itself gave me so much that it's that pinnacle of success of just getting that, winning that election was, not a big thing after all. Winning it was the icing on the cake. I'm not denying it. But even if I had lost it, I knew that I had already gained so much out of it. And another thing was, I had put my heart and soul into it. So I feel when you put a heart and soul into something, then the actual end result doesn't matter.
But still the question remains unanswered. What if you had lost the election?
Yes, I would have felt bad.
Obviously all of us would feel bad, right? But how would you have
felt bad for a few days.
Yeah, but how would you have handled the rejection?
That's not the end of the world. That's not the end of the world. So what? Life moves on. I have so many other things to do in life. That's just one small thing. So even if I had lost, yes, I would have felt bad because I had worked hard for it. I had not done it just out of time pass.
Correct.
I had put my heart and soul into it. But even if I had lost, I would have felt bad for a few days, but I would have put it aside. I would have put it behind me and said, yes, I would have given myself a new challenge and given myself a new project. दूर बड़ी मंजिल है तो क्या, दूर बड़ी मंजिल है तो क्या, नजर नहीं साहिल भी तो क्या, मन में जब विश्वास भरा हो, राहें कितनी मुश्किल तो क्या.
One last question to Dr. Anagar. Do you believe in destiny?
Destiny, yes. But I think we can create our own destiny. It's so easy to put everything on destiny. It's difficult to act, and it's difficult to act strongly. So I think you should believe more in our own actions rather than in destiny. Destiny, I think that would be say around 5%, but it's 95% of your own actions and your own thoughts that is going to take you wherever your blessings. There are so many good things happening also. People don't think of that. They only think of what they have lost or what they don't have in life. Think of so many things that you have in life. You are probably better off than so many other people in life. Yes, everybody, कभी किसी को मुकम्मल जहां नहीं मिलता, कभी जमी तो कभी आसमां नहीं मिलता. But strive for, so you need to aim for the stars, but keep your feet firmly on the ground.